Raiders get rolled on Monday Night Football by the Dallas Cowboys and dropped to 2-8. A lot of questions that need to be answered. I don't even know if I have all the answers. That plus more comes up on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for November 18th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one sports podcast network. We are very proud of that fact. We're also very proud of the way that this show continues to grow each and every day because of your support, whether you're checking us out wherever you find your favorite podcast or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. The fact that you check in with this show each and every day means a lot. And matter of fact, being at Allegiant Stadium on Monday Night Football and getting to shake hands and talk some Raider football with many of you just goes ahead and backs that whole thought up that you check in with this show just about each and every day. So again, cannot thank you enough for that. Cannot thank my man Ari enough for the job that he does behind the scenes. You don't really see it, but you'll definitely understand how much work he puts in. If he wasn't around, this show would not look and sound the way it does. So big ups to my man Ari. Does a great job each and every day. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can find me as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you at 707-654-4693. And as you could tell by the way that the Raiders got whooped on Monday Night Football by the Dallas Cowboys, there's going to be a lot of feedback, not a lot of good feedback, and there shouldn't be. So we'll hear from you coming up in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, your calls and texts. Segment number 2, we'll talk about, some of the questions that I have, some of the just things that I don't understand about what this Raiders team is doing through 10 games in 11 weeks. We'll get to that in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, we'd like to talk about the game flow, how the Raiders ended up losing that one, getting whooped 33-16 by the Dallas Cowboys. And to be honest about it, I don't even think it was that close. But we'll jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So as I mentioned off top, the Raiders got rolled. 33-16, did not feel like it was that close. Early on, it was close. Raiders scored 2 field goals early, and I said, and I tweeted out immediately at your boy Q254, getting these field goals in the red zone does not feel like a good recipe for this game, right? This is going to set you up for failure each and every time, and that's the reality of it, man. These field goals are not going to win you games. You have to score touchdowns, especially against a team like the Cowboys who are really good at scoring, and we all knew the Raiders' defense wasn't going to be able to hold up forever. Started out really well. Right? 3 and out defensively. Boom. Got him off the field. Then another defensive stand. Max Crosby forces a fumble, right? And they recover in the red zone and they end up losing yardage and have to settle for 3. Like that went to me. I knew it wasn't going to be good when those two things happened. You saw Max Crosby, kind of the look on his face, when he saw that the Raiders weren't going to be able to get into the end zone, kind of knew what kind of night it was going to be. But Geno Smith, 27 for 42, 238 yards, a touchdown, an interception, got sacked 4 times. And the thing about it is the Raiders threw the ball 42 times. They hardly ever ran the ball. Matter of fact, in the first half, they only had 3 called run plays. They ran the ball 4 times, but one was Geno Smith's scramble. Like, that's just not a recipe for any success. And I know the offensive line, which is something we'll talk about quite a bit coming up in segment number 2, was compromised. It was very compromised. We all expected to see either Alex Kappa or Caleb Rogers at the right guard spot. How about neither? How about we saw Jordan Meredith go from the center position back to guard and see Will Putnam go in at the center position? Yeah, that was the decision that was made. Again, we spent all week last week, even leading up to the game, talking about Caleb Rogers, when he was going to get in, if he was going to start, if not. And they pulled that rabbit out the hat. So, again, we'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2, but just not a very good distribution when it came to the game call from Chip Kelly. And I just refuse to believe that him and Pete Carroll left the Intermountain Health Performance Center and said, this is the play call. This is what we're going to go with. This is game plan against the Dallas Cowboys. And I know after the game, Pete Carroll said, hey, that was the plan. You could put that on me. This is what we were thinking. Play action pass, yada, yada, yada. He was saying all the right things, not to throw Chip under the bus. I refuse to believe that they agreed on that game plan. This comes from ESPN Insights. Pass, and more passing from the Raiders in the first half. The Raiders' design pass percentage in the first half was 91.4%, the highest in a game league-wide this season, and it is 85.7 by the Saints in Week 8 against the Buccaneers. The Raiders ended the first half with 31 dropbacks to only 3 called runs by Next Gen Stats tracking. That's 8.8% called run rate. It's the lowest of a game since Week 14 in 2021. 1. That comes from Benjamin Solak from ESPN. And this one more note, the Cowboys entered Monday's game against the Raiders allowing 4.8 yards per rush, which ranks 6th worst in the league this season. Enter Quentin Williams, the Cowboys' new star defensive lineman, leads all players with a 9.5% run stop percentage this season. That also comes from ESPN Insights. So, okay, Quentin Williams is added. They have Kenny Clark. That's going to solve all their woes when it comes to the running game. Maybe, but the Raiders didn't even test it. The Raiders kind of looked at that stat and was like, okay, Quentin Williams, he leads all players with a 9.5% run stop percentage. Let's not run the ball at all. I just don't agree with that philosophy. I know the offensive line is a major reason why you don't run the ball, but they can't run block or pass block. So I just don't think that it was a good recipe having Geno Smith drop back 42 times. The Raiders as a team only ran the ball 12 times for 27 yards. Geno Smith led the way. 4 runs, scrambles for 14 yards. Genty, 6 carries for 7 yards. And Raheem Mostert, 2 for 6. Receiving, well, Brock Bowers, they didn't get involved in him with the passing game last week against Denver. They got him involved this week, right? 12 targets, 7 catches, 72 yards. All right, that's cool. One of my keys to victory, get Brock Bowers involved. The offense has to go through Bowers and Genty. So check when it came to one box. But Genty, not so much. Trey Tucker, 4 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown late in the game in garbage time. He picked that up. He's the leading receiver for the Raiders this season. And then Ashton Genty, again, did not get involved in the running game, but did have 6 catches on 8 targets for 27 yards. So it's not like they completely ignored him. They didn't use him, but 6 carries for 7 yards, 6 catches for 27 yards is not why you drafted him number 6 overall. I've been saying that for the longest. I'll continue to say it till I'm blue in the face. If you're going to draft a skill player that high, use the skill of that player, right? I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I didn't sleep in a hotel that made me smarter, and I'm not going to sleep in a hotel tonight to make me smarter. But I just know that if you grab a guy at a skill position, you've got to find a way to use that skill. Again, as I mentioned, Max Crosby, he forced that he had a sack and a forced fumble. Tonka Hemingway came up with the recovery. Again, that was in the red zone. Raiders had to settle for 3. And then at the corner position, I mentioned one of my keys to victory, be careful with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens because that's a really good 1-2 punch from the receiving core when it comes to the Cowboys. Well, Caillou Blue Kelly in coverage from Next Gen Stats, 27 snaps, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. He got benched. Darian Porter ended up in the game. So I mentioned Caillou Blue Kelly, Darian Porter, Eric Stokes. They were all going to, really be put to the test on Monday Night Football. Yeah, Caillou Blue Kelly definitely was. Stokes did as well. He held his own. They still were very successful. I mean, there's really nothing that the Cowboys did offensively that wasn't too successful. But, Stokes and Porter did a lot better than Caillou Blue Kelly. But all in all, just a really bad night. To have a bad night, Monday Night Football, very embarrassing way to lose. Again, 33-16, but the score didn't even feel that close. There was a lot of Cowboy fans in the building. I feel like it was at least 60-40, and Cowboy fans were very loud. There was multiple times throughout the game where you heard "Let's go Cowboys" chants throughout the stadium, and then there was also multiple times when Raider Nation was booing the offensive performance from the Silver and Black, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. It was a really bad day, really bad performance. Monday Night Football, everyone's excited. All eyes are on you. That's one where you don't want all eyes to be on you, and honestly, I don't know. I don't sit here and pound the table. Anyone who's listening to this show knows I don't pound the table and say that people need to lose their jobs. But somehow, some way, when this season gets wrapped up, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Somebody is not surviving this season, whether that's John Spytek, Pete Carroll. I almost called him John Carroll. That's a school, not a coach. Anyway, John Spytek, the GM, Pete Carroll, the head coach, Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, Geno Smith, the quarterback. Somebody's not surviving. I don't know who it is. I feel like John Spytek is pretty comfortable in his job as the GM. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, I think it's going to come down to one of those two guys. And depending on who it is between those two guys will depend on what happens with Geno Smith as well. But there's some questions that really, popped up before the game, during the game, made me really scratch my head multiple times. We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who'll score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every single game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So what do you got to do? Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel as the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Raider Nation, there we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Got a lot of questions, don't have a lot of answers for what's going on with the Silver and Black, as they're now 2-8 after just an embarrassing loss to the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. And really, the questions come to the personnel. What is going on with the personnel? What is going on with the decisions to play certain guys, bring certain guys in? What is going on between the GM, the head coach, the offensive coordinator? I just don't understand. I talked about it briefly in segment number 1 when it came to Caleb Rogers. We all knew that JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, was on IR, so he wasn't going to play. We all anticipated either Alex Kappa getting the start, Caleb Rogers getting the start, maybe even a combination of both guys playing on Monday Night Football, right? Maybe starting out with Alex Kappa, then making way for Caleb Rogers, or giving him a little bit of rotation, see what you have. And it started to tip me off earlier in the day. I was live at Silver Sevens Hotel and Casino here in Vegas doing kind of a pregame show, even though it was a 3-hour show. It was unnecessary roughness, but it felt like a pregame show. And I saw the note from Raiders PR that Antonio, I should say, Mafi, was called up from the practice squad. Now, that's the one that has a lot of familiarity with Chip Kelly. He played there at UCLA, but he was called up as a guard from the practice squad. So that kind of tipped me off like, wait, hold on. What's going on with Caleb Rogers? So I just kind of, okay, well, maybe they're just bringing up another guy just in case it doesn't work out with Caleb Rogers, only to find out 90 minutes before kickoff that he was a healthy inactive. I was like, wait, hold on. We just spent all last week, Saturday, all these days leading up to this game, talking about if and when Caleb Rogers was going to get in, what we were going to see from the 3rd round pick out of Texas Tech. And all of a sudden he's a healthy scratch, not a scratch, but just inactive. Like, that didn't make any sense to me. And then you bring up Mafi off the practice squad. So you're telling me a 3rd round pick that you selected, and when I say you, I mean John Spytek selected, is not good enough to get on the field in game 10, even as a backup, not even to be active, right? Think about this. I'm not saying just get on the field. I'm just saying active. He wasn't even active on Monday. When the inactives came out and I'm going through the list, I'm like, okay, makes sense. Wait, Rogers? No Rogers? What is going on? That I promise you, and I don't know this. This is just my gut feeling. This is not a place of like some kind of inside information. This is not what this is. But I mean, it doesn't take the greatest 2020 vision to be able to see something ain't right. Something is not right with this scenario. If you draft someone in the 3rd round and you're telling me they're not even good enough right now. So if you're going to tell me, and we're going to talk to Pete Carroll today, you're going to tell me that he's not ready to even be a backup at this stage of the game, be out there just in case, say, Kappa were to get injured. He's not even good enough at this stage of the game, in your opinion, and that's what you're telling me by making him inactive, that he's not ready in week 10 or week 11, game 10, then you severely missed on that pick. If that's what you're telling me. I don't think that that's what you're telling me. I feel like it's one of those, I'm doing it my way or the highway. And that's coming from Pete Carroll, right? Kind of felt the same way when they brought in Tyler Lockett. I felt the same way when they brought in Amari Cooper. I know he only lasted a couple seconds, but they brought those guys in. Those are veteran wide receivers. Thought, okay, well, you're not going to, play Thornton. You're not going to play Best. Or you're not going to at least force them to, to be, really good and active right now because you still have Jacoby Myers. Well, once Jacoby was gone, then it's like, all right, well, now what? And then you bring in Lockett, and he's like Geno Smith's safety blanket, and that's fine. But, what are you doing? You're telling me your 2nd round pick gets 1 target, 1 catch, 19 yards on Monday, and then you never go back to him again. That's your 2nd round pick. Your 3rd round pick or picks wasn't available to even play, right, on the inactive list. The guard and your tackle, Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers. But Grant, I don't think anyone expected to see out there anytime soon. He's a young man from William & Mary. I think a lot of us understood that this was probably going to be a redshirt year for him. That's fine, right? He could turn out to be a really good player at some stage when he's ready. But you're telling me the guy from Texas Tech who has so many, like 5 or 6 years of playing in college, all these, these games under his belt, you're telling me he can't even be active? That didn't make sense. And so instead of, when JPJ goes down, instead of just replacing that guy, all of a sudden you decided it made more sense to make a complete shift on your offensive line as opposed to just taking one guy out and putting one guy in. You decided you were going to take Jordan Meredith, who you spent all season so far telling us why he makes sense at the center position. Now he's going to slide over to guard. and Will Putnam's going to be the center, right? Like that was the decision that they made. This is not me making things up. These are the decisions they made. So instead of just replacing one with one, now you're making wholesale changes. So your offensive line has already been hit with lack of continuity, right? It's already been hit with not one band, one sound. It's not all rowing in the same direction. It's already been compromised multiple times. You've got Colton Miller out. You've got, JPJ is out, right? Dylan Parham is compromised, right? And then all of a sudden Jordan Meredith is sliding over to guard. Will Putnam sliding over to center. Like, what in the world's going on? None of that makes sense. And at this stage, you're 2-8. There's nothing you could tell me about the way that Geno Smith was attacked and sacked and pressured, and there was no chance to run the ball, even when they did run the ball, even though they didn't do it very often. You're telling me Caleb Rogers couldn't have done that? I really refuse to believe that. So to me, that says there's a disconnect between the GM and the head coach. The head coach who wants to win right now and says, I'm going to do it my way, and the GM who wants to see the young players. There's no doubt in my mind that John Spytek as a GM wants to see the young players out there, to see what he has so he can build this team for the future. That's the long-range goal for this team. And Pete Carroll basically saying, nah, I'm not going to do it. To me, that doesn't make any sense. And that's why I say I feel like there's a big disconnect between the guys that matter, the GM, the head coach, the offensive coordinator. It's something is wrong. Another question. Why would you draft Ashton Jeanty at number 6 if you're not going to use him? Right? And I touched on this in segment number 1. If you're not going to use him, he has a superpower. He's a playmaker, right? He's really good at running the ball, getting the ball in space. I get it. He had 7 targets, 8 targets in the passing game. That's cool, right? That's fine. But you're not featuring him. You have a dude in Brock Bowers who's that, a dude, an absolute playmaker. You have a playmaker in Ashton Jeanty that's basically got it. He's like a car, like one of those cars that goes super fast, but it's got a governor on it. So once it hits 75 miles an hour, it just bogs down, right? Bogs down. Well, what's the point? If that was going to be the case, and this is a conversation that we had leading up to the draft, you might as well have gone out there and got the best tackle that was available if you weren't truly going to use Ashton Jeanty. And I refuse to believe, going back to the play call in the game plan for this game, I refuse to believe that Pete Carroll did not want Ashton Jeanty to be more involved in the game, right? When you draft Ashton Jeanty, to me, that's a 100% Pete Carroll draft pick, and he wants a heavy emphasis on that downhill rushing attack, which the Raiders have not had that at all this year. They just haven't. So those are other questions. Like what is the true plan moving forward? We don't know. What is the identity of this team? We don't know. Going back to last Friday, it was one of the boxes that I said the Raiders have to find a way to check. All right, what is the true identity of this team? Is Geno Smith going to be your guy moving forward? I think no. But, at this point, can you feel confident going and drafting a quarterback and putting him behind that offensive line? I also say no. I say that you have to build up that offensive line. You have to be able to protect your quarterback when you finally do get your franchise quarterback. Now, maybe they can find a way to get it done, both positions filled in the offseason. Maybe they can do that. If they can, great. But this ain't it. This ain't it. And I really feel bad for the way that this team is performing. Not that I have anything to do with it, but it stinks to see and shake hands and take pictures with and chop it up at the torch at Allegiant Stadium, all things Raiders football, and see how happy fans are when they get there, just to see them walk out with their heads down. That just, man, that hurts my feelings. Right? I was glad that I had a hoodie on when I was leaving Allegiant Stadium, because I saw some folks that I knew, and I was like, man, I know they don't want to talk to me, because they're just so disappointed. So I had my hood up, and they, no one even wanted to say nothing after the game. And I get it. It was cold outside too, but it's one of those things like, man, how do you justify, everything that you're pouring into this team, only for this team to let you down the way that they do. And again, as I said many times, I know the guys in the locker room are still together. That's what they're telling us. We talked to a handful of guys like Max Crosby, Ashton Jeanty, Brock Bowers, other Jordan Meredith. Talked to guys like that in the locker room following the game, and they all still sound like they're still on the same page. Isaiah Pulamaw was another guy we had a chance to talk to. But that the frustration is built in for them, and I'm sure that they don't know what the plan. Hey, what are we trying to do? right? Are we trying to win games? Are we trying? What's the goal here? But I'll tell you, by that performance on Monday night, I don't think any Raider fan walked away from that with some kind of sense of, like a good feeling or any kind of confidence that this team is trending in the right directions. A lot of questions, not a lot of answers when it comes to the silver and black. But we'll ask when we talk to Pete Carroll later on this morning. But what's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show, 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, do want to thank you for making the Locked On Raiders podcast your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate that in a major way. We will have the Raiders Squad Show as well coming up later on this morning. So depending on what time you're listening to this, Chantel Chan, Lincoln Kennedy, and myself, me and Lincoln will be right here from Studio Q. And Chantel, of course, will be Howard selling it. She'll get her, she'll be hosting it, getting her questions on and throwing it out there and setting us up hopefully for success. So that'll be going on, something to look forward to later on as well. I want to get into the first call from longtime Raider fan. Didn't say his name, but he does let it be known that he's a longtime Raider fan. It's a quick call. He's calling to talk about what the Raiders need to do before he watches anymore. Here's a longtime Raider fan.
Man, I'm a longtime Raider fan. And until the Raiders draft them a franchise quarterback, I won't watch him. We don't have any hope to win. You can draft all the offensive linemen you want. The glaring problem and one of the main reasons that the Raiders need a franchise quarterback. As long as we keep ignoring it, we won't win. Look at our team. We don't even have any chance to win. All right. Hope you get this message, Q.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate you. I don't disagree with the need for the franchise quarterback. I don't. But we cannot ignore the offensive line, right? We as media, we as fans, the team as an organization cannot ignore the offensive line. The reason why they looked so poor on Monday was because that offensive line was so bad. That offensive line, I mean, and when I get to talk with Lincoln later on this morning, I'm excited about that because I know he'll have plenty to say about the offensive line. I might not say anything. I might just go ahead and let Professor Kennedy cook because that offensive line is bad. And so whatever they got to do, whatever position they're going to be in, they're going to have to go and get the quarterback, and they're going to have to make sure they address the offensive line because right now it is bad. But thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from 307 Ghost Town Raider. That's in Casper, Wyoming. It says, Q, a wise man once told me that the definition of insanity is repeating the same behaviors and expecting different results. By that definition, Chip Kelly's actions fit the mold. I have only one remaining theory, and it must be that Kelly is actively trying to get fired. I hope it works out for him. I was on the fence about maybe keeping Pete Carroll next year. Not anymore. It's time to light this dumpster on fire and wipe the slate clean with head coach, offensive coordinator, and DC. Graham owns plenty of culpability and blowout losses. His presence is not the type of continuity the team needs. If these coaches are here again next year, is there any sane way to expect any other result? Call me crazy, but I don't think so. It's 307 Ghost Town Raider, Casper, Wyoming. I don't blame you for that text at all. Like I said earlier, I don't think everyone's going to survive this. Somebody's going to be made the scapegoat here. Right now, Patrick Graham probably looks the safest out of everybody just because at least the defense keeps the team in things at least close early in the game, and then the wheels fall off after that, just like we saw on Monday Night Football. But there's plays that are being made by the defense early. They just can't sustain it because the offense isn't doing anything, not cashing in. Even Max Crosby gets the ball back to the team in the red zone. and they end up settling for a field goal. Like, these kind of things just can't happen. But yeah, I'm not one, that's not going to sit here and I'm not going to pound the table and say fire, 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 fire. But something's got to change. There's no doubt about it. And I do believe we will still see change, at least at the end of the season. Thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Got a call from Big E in the 209. He's calling to defend offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, knowing a lot of people won't agree with him. Here he is, Big E in the 209.
Hey, what up, Q? This is Big E from the 209, man. Got a couple of points. Got to defend. I mean, I know I'm probably in the rarity with this one, but I got to defend my man Chip Kelly, man. I heard you had made a comment about that pass to Alex Kappa and him getting a little too cute or creative that a couple of weeks back on the other play. And then I know today the narrative is going to be, why isn't he running the ball? Why isn't he running the ball? Well, I don't know about you guys, but has anybody seen this O-line? And I know I was listening to the other show with you, Chantel, and Big Link and everybody, and I hear everybody calling for Chip Kelly's head or saying he hasn't been creative. Well, you can't really run the ball with this offensive line. I don't know if if anybody's seen that play on when it was when they were on we were on our own 2-yard line. Genty gets the ball, and there's 3 defenders, a defender already back there with him. And then I'm looking at another play, and I'm sorry, this Jordan Meredith experiment has to end. It has to end. Somebody needs to go and fess up that they messed up by thinking Jordan Meredith was this great center. He's horrible. He's not good. They put him at guard, and they had Putnam in there at the center at one point. This O-line is horrible. And, I mean, people saying they're not running the ball, those little dump-offs to the left and right behind the line of scrimmage that gain 5-6 yards, maybe even a first down, I think, on one of the plays, those are extensions of the run game. I've seen the Chiefs do things like that. I've seen other franchises do that. So I don't think Chip Kelly is that bad of a play caller or he's horrible. And to be honest, I know I'm really in the rear with this one, and I'm not saying Geno Smith is free of blame because he absolutely loves triple coverage. But I don't think this is all on Geno either. I mean, there's just only so much you can do when you're fighting for your life every second of the game. Overall, this game it was just an embarrassment to lose like this on the big stage, Monday Night Football in front of everybody in the home crowd, but it is what it is. Next year, don't go for the top quarterback. It'll be the same thing over again. You got to beef up this O-line in a major way. And they better amend whatever they got going on with JPJ. That's all I got to say, Q. I'm running out of time here. The first year I had some hopes. I don't have many hopes now, but it's all good. I'm looking forward to next year. I'm just going to keep watching these last couple games. I ain't ready to dip out yet. Anyway, Q, love the show. Thank you for all you do. You and Artie, shout out to you guys. And let's go Raider Nation.
Big E, thanks for the call. And look, I completely agree that the offensive line is bad. I'll be the first person to talk about that. But you can't just have a 7-on-7 type approach. And that's what the Raiders' offensive game plan was on Monday. And I really don't believe that was the game plan. Again, I know Pete Carroll, he backed up Chip Kelly in the presser immediately following the game. But I just feel like that was him probably being nice. I don't see any way that was the game plan leaving the facility. Like, okay, this is how we're going to attack the Cowboys. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they're both on the same page. It's not good. But the embarrassing title that you gave that game and this team, that fits perfectly. There's no doubt about that. Big E, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And we'll close things out with a text from Sal in Fresno, Cali. He says, hey, Q, it's your boy Sal from Fresno. This whole team and staff, except Max, can get fired. What a poor excuse of a team. I feel sorry for all Raider Nation that has to endure such a dysfunctional organization. Q, the great work, brother. Love you. See you after season over. The season's over for your tattoo appointment. That's my guy, Sal, the tattooist in Fresno, Cali. Sal, definitely appreciate the text. Got plenty of work from Sal. He does a fantastic job. And yeah, man, I'll tell you what, if we were near and I didn't have work to do, I might spend more time at the tattoo shop than at the game because the way that the Raiders are playing, I'll tell you, it is not a good performance. I'm with you. I hate the fact that Raider Nation gets all fired up. And even me, man, I believe that this season was going to be a lot different under head coach Pete Carroll. And unfortunately, it's like year in and year out, same old, same old. I couldn't tell you how many people before the game on Monday said, Q, what's the honest to God difference between what we're seeing this year and what we saw last year under Antonio Pierce? And I think that's a fair question. I understand Pete Carroll knows what he wants, knows how to get it, has been there, done that. He's got the track record, and AP didn't. But, I mean, AP's teams still found a way to win 4 games. I don't know if the Raiders get to 4 this year. Not the way that they're playing, right? I don't see it. Cleveland, I know Cleveland is not a great team. We know that. Shador's going to come in this week, and he did not look good on Sunday, so he's probably going to be a work in progress as well. It's probably going to be a very low-scoring affair, but at least the Browns have a really good defense led by Myles Garrett that's going to be a tough out. So, you expect to see Geno Smith on skates again, as far as I'm concerned, coming up this Sunday on a short week. But I don't see too many more victories on their schedule. So, I do think that that's a fair question. Like, what's the difference between what they had last year as opposed to what they're doing this year? All we know now is they've got a very high-paid offensive coordinator as opposed to a very poor one when it comes to Luke Getsy. And when I mean poor, I mean by poor play caller. Chip Kelly was the guy that was supposed to be the dude, and he's been everything but the dude. So thanks so much for the text, my man. Definitely appreciate you. Got a call from Phil. Phil Boy Raider from Richmond, Cali, we'll get to tomorrow. A text from Mountaineer Raider we'll get to tomorrow as well. Of course, we'll hear from head coach Pete Carroll. Will be over at the facility later on this morning. We've got the Raider Squad Show, as I mentioned, starting at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Lincoln Kennedy will be right here in Studio Q. Chantel Chan as well. She'll be hosting the whole thing, and we'll hold it down and try to make sense of what really does not make sense. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.